Think about how a computer virus actually works, like the really dangerous ones out there.
Right, the ones that just sneak in.
Exactly. They don't announce themselves with, flashing red screens or blaring alarms. They disguise themselves as something completely mundane.
Yeah, like a harmless-looking PDF attached to an email.
Right. Or a standard system update, just a background file that you've seen a million times. You click it and you don't even notice anything has changed.
Nothing at all. The system thinks it's functioning perfectly normally.
Yeah, but underneath the surface, quietly, the source code of your entire operating system is being completely rewritten.
And, it's that invisibility that makes it so effective. You're opening programs, browsing the web, doing your work, completely unaware that the foundational logic dictating every single action has been compromised.
It's terrifying, honestly. And today we are taking a deep dive into an essay that argues human societies can be infected in that exact same way.
Yeah, that's a very heavy concept.
It really is. But instead of malicious software downloaded from the internet, the virus is hidden in our most revered philosophical texts, our ancient proverbs, and the cultural ideals we teach our kids.
It is a profound and, frankly, a pretty intense way to look at history and language.
Definitely. So, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to thoroughly unpack a highly provocative essay written by an author named Shuofeng. This was published on December 2, 2022.
And the title alone really sets the stage for what we're talking about.
It does. It's titled The Hidden Demons in Chinese Culture. Now, just a quick heads up as we dive in, and I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a second.
Yeah, this is important context.
Right. So Shuofeng makes some massive, highly politically and culturally charged claims here about over 2 millennia of history. And our goal today isn't to take sides or endorse his arguments or, pass any sort of judgment.
No, absolutely not. We're just looking at the text.
Exactly. We are simply your impartial guides today. We're just mapping out the author's logic step by step so you can examine the code for yourself.
That is the perfect way to frame it. We are treating this essay as an object of study, pulling apart the machinery to see how Xu Feng believes these cultural mechanisms actually operate.
Right. And the core premise of Shuofeng's essay is a heavy one. He argues that ancient proverbs and celebrated philosophical ideals aren't just, harmless collections of words or inspiring quotes you put on a wall.
Right. They aren't just motivational posters.
No, according to the author, they act as hidden demons that secretly dictate a society's values without anyone even realizing the programming is running. Okay, let's unpack this. Where exactly does the author begin building this argument?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the author traces these issues back over 2,000 years.
Wow, 2,000 years.
Yeah, examining how language fundamentally programs the blood, the cells, the thoughts, and the consciousness of a populace.
The actual biology of it.
Basically, yeah. To understand how everyday people operate in this culture, the author insists we have to start at the absolute top of the pyramid. We have to look at how the rulers set the rules of the game.
Okay, that makes sense. Start from the top down.
Right. And to do that, Shuofeng points to a specific quote from the Book of Songs.
Oh, okay. And just for a little context for everyone listening, the Book of Songs is one of the oldest existing collections of Chinese poetry, right? I mean, it dates back well over 2 millennia.
Correct, yeah. It's a foundational text. And the quote the essay highlights is this: "Under the whole heaven, every spot is the sovereign's ground. To the borders of the land, every person is the sovereign subject."
Wow. Every spot is the sovereign's ground. Every person is the sovereign subject. I mean, that is absolute ownership.
Oh, completely absolute.
There is no concept of public space in that framing whatsoever.
None at all. And the author argues that this specific idea that the ruler literally owns everything under the sky has influenced leaders starting from the very first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, all the way to the present day.
It's a direct line of influence.
Exactly. Now, regardless of what the original poetic meaning of that ancient line might have been, Shuofeng observes that historically, emperors have treated the world as their literal personal domain.
So treating a country like a private backyard.
Basically, the people living there weren't citizens with rights. They were subjects meant to bow down for the ruler's benefit.
Okay, let me try to put this into a modern perspective just so I can wrap my head around it. It sounds almost like a massive, ancient family business.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Like, imagine a CEO who doesn't view their employees as partners or even as human beings with independent agency,
Right, right.
To this CEO, the employees, the building, the coffee machine, they are all just personal assets on a spreadsheet to be managed and exploited.
That captures the dynamic the essay describes perfectly.
Mm.
And Suofeng uses the example of Qin Shi Huang to illustrate this family property mindset in action.
Now, Qin Shi Huang, just to clarify, he is the guy who first unified China, right?
Yes, exactly. If you've ever seen pictures of the famous terracotta army, that was built for his tomb.
Oh, right, right. Massive scale.
Huge. And when it came time for succession, this emperor didn't look around and say, hey, let's pass the throne to a highly virtuous minister. Or let's implement a democratic system and let the people elect the next capable leader.
Well, I mean, of course not. If you truly believe you own the entire country like a family farm, why would you ever give your private property away to a stranger?
Precisely the point. He wrote a will, passing the throne to his son, because the empire was viewed strictly as family property. It naturally had to be handed down to his descendants.
Just keeping it in the family.
Yeah. And the author argues that this tradition, this fundamental view of the nation as private property, has continued uninterrupted. The essay claims none of the emperors ever regarded the world as actually belonging to the people.
Now, I have to ask a clarifying question here because the text makes some very sweeping, uncompromising claims.
It definitely does.
The author says that the whole concept of serving the people was always a facade. And he goes as far as to say that not a single emperor in history was truly good.
Yeah, that's a direct claim.
So is the author genuinely arguing that every single ruler over a span of 2 millennia operated exclusively to manipulate the populace and protect their own power? Like, was there no genuine benevolence, no leader who actually cared about the public good?
That is exactly the author's thesis, yes.
Wow.
Kuofeng takes a very hard line on this. According to the essay, the rhetoric of public service, of, serving the people, was nothing but a disguise.
Just a PR spin.
Exactly. Its true aim was always controlling the populace to protect the ruler's power. They schemed to manipulate the people.
Unbelievable.
Therefore, in the context of this argument, the author concludes that not a single emperor in Chinese history was truly good, because the very foundation of their rule was autocratic control masquerading as benevolence.
That is a staggering top-down view of power.
It really is bleak.
Yeah, I mean, if the person at the very top views the entire world, all the land, and every single breathing person as their private property, well, that creates a highly specific, highly restrictive environment for the millions of people living under them.
Oh, absolutely. It defines your entire reality.
Which naturally leads us to the next logical step in the author's argument.
Right.
If you are a regular person starting at the bottom, how do you survive, let alone advance, in a system where you fundamentally own nothing?
Right, because you can't just start an independent enterprise if the sovereign owns every inch of soil.
Exactly.
Your only path upward is to play the game the sovereign has designed. And according to the text, the primary mechanism for survival and advancement in this system is education.
Okay, but we aren't talking about education in the way we usually romanticize it today, are we?
No, not at all.
Like, we aren't talking about learning for the sake of enlightenment or scientific discovery or just, fulfilling your intellectual curiosity.
No, the motivation here is vastly different. To explain this, the author pulls a fascinating quote from the third emperor of the Song dynasty. His name was Zhao Heng.
Okay, Zhao Heng.
And just to anchor this historically for everyone, Zhao Heng ruled around the year 1000 AD. So it was a time of massive economic growth and a highly structured bureaucratic state.
A very organized society.
Exactly. And the emperor wrote a piece called Encouragement to Learn. The most famous line from it translates to, "In books, there are houses of gold. In books, there are beauties like jade."
Wait, houses of gold. That is, I actually want to read the full context of that quote from our source material.
Oh, please do. It's quite something.
Because the promises made by the emperor here are almost bizarrely material. It doesn't sound like a call to scholarship at all.
No, it really doesn't.
It sounds like a get-rich-quick scheme. So the emperor writes, "To become wealthy, one need not buy good land. In books, there are thousands of bushels of grain. To live in peace, one need not build high halls. In books, there are houses of gold."
And he keeps going.
He does. "When you go out, do not hate having no followers. In books, there are many carriages and horses. When you marry, do not hate having no good matchmaker. In books, there are beauties like jade." And then he basically concludes that a man should diligently study the 6 classics at his window.
It is remarkably transactional.
Oh, totally transactional.
And just to ground this for you, the listener, the 6 classics weren't just any random books you could check out from a local library.
Right.
They were the foundational texts of Confucianism. and they held an absolute monopoly on the educational and civil service systems.
So it was the only approved curriculum.
Exactly. Imagine if the only way to get a house, a car, or a spouse today was to perfectly memorize one specific philosophy textbook written and approved by the government.
Wow. It completely strips away the romance of the scholar, doesn't it?
Completely.
You aren't studying to understand the universe. You're studying for grain, gold, status symbols, and beautiful wives.
Yeah, and the source actually mentions this extreme historical anecdote to show how desperate people became. It talks about scholars studying so hard they would hang their heads from beams and stab their thighs.
Ouch. Wait, literally?
Literally, hanging the head from a beam and stabbing the thigh with an awl is a famous idiom about extreme, punishing dedication to studying.
That sounds horrifying.
Well, the idea is you tie your hair to the ceiling beam, so if you start to nod off from exhaust you, it physically yanks you awake.
Oh my God.
Or you literally stab yourself in the leg with a sharp tool to shock your body into staying conscious.
So what does this all mean? To me, this sounds exactly like a brutal, ancient version of modern hustle culture.
Oh, that's a very good comparison.
You know the type people grinding 80 hours a week, destroying their mental and physical health, just chugging energy drinks to get that prestigious degree?
Just to land a six-figure job and buy the nice car and the big house?
Yeah, exactly. But I have to push back on the author's framing here. The essay criticizes even today's college, master's, and doctoral students for doing this, for wanting high-paying, stable jobs instead of using their knowledge to serve the greater good.
Right. He doesn't spare modern students.
But is the author really saying that wanting financial stability makes you a captive to these so-called hidden demons? I mean, is trying to pay your rent and feed your family a sign of moral failing?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author's critique goes much deeper than just wanting a steady paycheck to cover rent.
Okay, so it's not just about paying the bills.
No. The issue Su Feng is highlighting is the foundational motivation of the entire culture's approach to learning. The author asks us to notice that throughout history, the people doing this extreme, studying the ones literally stabbing their thighs to stay awake.
Right.
They were not doing it to explore truth. They were not doing it to seek the welfare of the common people or improve society.
Right, they're doing it for the houses of gold and the beauties like jade.
Exactly. But here is the critical distinction. The text explicitly argues that the ultimate goal was to rise above others.
Ah, to rise above others.
It's the pursuit of superiority, not just security. If your entire educational system is fundamentally driven by the desire to become above your peers, to have people follow your carriage, to accumulate personal wealth while others have none, then the system is inherently selfish.
So it's a zero-sum game.
Basically, you aren't studying to escape poverty. You're studying so you can be the one holding the whip.
Okay, wow, that changes the framing entirely. So it's less about basic survival and much more about domination.
Yes. And the author argues that even in today's world of advanced science, the vast majority of people pursuing higher education are just repeating this ancient pattern.
Really? Even now?
That's the argument. They aren't seeking to serve the masses. They are seeking to elevate themselves above the masses.
That is Shufeng's argument. So the hardware has updated to modern universities, but the old operating system is still running in the background.
Exactly. The code is exactly the same.
Wow. Let's track the logic here, because it's building to a very uncomfortable collision.
It really is.
We have a top-down system where the ruler treats the world as their private property. In response, the people at the bottom realize their only way out is to study the ruler's approved texts.
Right.
And they are motivated to do so purely by selfish, materialistic gain and the desire to be superior to everyone else. So what happens when those exact same people, the ones who stabbed their thighs and clawed their way up for houses of gold, finally achieve status and are tasked with actually governing the state?
Yeah, that brings us to the most complex and arguably the darkest part of the author's argument.
No.
To examine what happens when these scholars get power, Shufeng targets one of the most famous and celebrated progressions in Chinese philosophy.
Okay.
It comes from the Confucian classic, The Great Learning.
Oh, I know this one. It's cultivate oneself, regulate the family, govern the state, and bring peace to the world.
That's the one. And the author acknowledges that on the surface, the logic and ambition of this progression seem completely reasonable.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because honestly, that quote sounds like standard, universally praised self-improvement advice.
It does sound great on paper.
Right. It's the classic, get your own house in order before you try to change the world philosophy. You work on yourself first, you take care of your family, you step up to serve your community, and eventually you make the world a better place. It sounds beautiful.
It has a very noble ring to it.
So why on earth does the author look at this exact progression and call it a blind and bloody path rather than a logical framework for leadership?
This raises an important question, and the author answers it by carefully deconstructing the words themselves and, more importantly, looking at how they actually played out in history.
Okay.
Schweffing argues we have to strip away the romantic translation. Let's look at the blindness first. The essay points out that regulating the family and governing the state completely lack any notions of democracy, freedom, or human rights.
Wait, so they're blind to the agency of the people actually being governed?
Yes, exactly. The text argues that this path emphasizes only personal ability and arrogance. Schweffing asks us to look at how these historical households actually operated.
Right, like what was happening behind closed doors?
Yeah. Which Confucian scholar truly regulated the family in a healthy way? The author claims that all of them treated the family as a place of personal, autocratic rule.
Let's drill down on that. What did regulating the family actually look like in practice, according to this critique?
Well, it meant the father held absolute, unquestioned power. Wives, concubines, children, and servants were expected to practice absolute obedience.
So no dissenting opinions at the dinner table?
None. It was essentially an incubation chamber for autocracy. The family wasn't a democratic household where everyone had a voice. It was a training ground.
A training ground.
Yeah, you learned to demand absolute submission at the dinner table so you can demand it later in the royal court.
Oh, I see. So regulating the family is just autocracy on a microscale. You learn to control your household so you can eventually control the state. That completely twists the whole get your house in order idea.
It really does. But the critique gets much darker when we move to the final step of the progression, bringing peace to the world.
Okay, what's wrong with bringing peace?
In the original text, the phrase is ping tianxia, and the author points out a terrifying linguistic twist here regarding the character ping.
How so?
Well, we usually translate it as peace, which implies, harmony, fairness, mutual respect.
Right, sitting around a campfire, everyone getting along.
Exactly. But Schweffing argues that the ping here does not mean fairness, which would be gong ping in Chinese.
Okay, gongping.
Instead, it actually means pacification. The word for that is pingding.
Wait, pacification. Let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. We're talking about the difference between ending an argument by coming to a mutual compromise versus ending an argument by duct taping the other person's mouth shut.
Oh, that is a brilliant analogy.
One is genuine peace, the other is just forced silence.
Yes, exactly. Pacification is forcing people into submission so they stop fighting you. It is a vastly different concept than peace.
Completely different.
And to prove this interpretation, the author cites historical evidence, specifically looking at the records of the Grand Historian.
Okay, what is that?
This is a monumental history text written around 94 BC. And there is a passage in it describing how our old friend Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, achieved this so-called peace.
Ah, the guy who saw the world as his private property and started the Terracotta Army.
The very same. The passage from the records actually praises his divine wisdom for how the whole country was pacified, how the barbarians were expelled, and how all under heaven submitted.
Submitted. That's the key word.
Right. And the author points out that anyone familiar with history knows exactly how Qin Shi Huang pacified the country.
Let me guess. He didn't do it by holding town halls and listening to everyone's grievances.
No, definitely not. He did it through brutal military conquest. It was forced submission at the end of a sword. And that is why the author calls the path of cultivate oneself, regulate the family, govern the state, and bring peace to the world a bloody one.
Because the end goal isn't a utopian society where everyone thrives and is treated equally.
Not at all.
The end goal is pacifying all opposition so that the ruler can maintain total, uncontested control.
That is the crux of it.
Yeah.
The text concludes that this entire progression has absolutely no universal values. And notice what's glaringly missing from the formula.
What's that?
Well, the author points out that there is no concern for developing the economy. There is nothing in there about improving the material well-being of the people, building infrastructure, or ensuring they live happy, fulfilled lives.
It's just all about power.
Yes, it purely encourages and instigates a personal, ruthless struggle for power, success, and fame.
It's incredible when you stack all of these pieces together. Schweffing has taken three foundational concepts that sound almost noble on the surface and completely inverted them.
He really flipped them upside down.
We have the sovereign treating the world as their private property. We have the student studying purely for material wealth and to be superior to others. And we have the leader pacifying the world under the guise of peace. It forms a perfect closed loop of control.
And that brings us to the author's overarching thesis. These concepts aren't just historical footnotes to be memorized for a multiple choice test. They are the hidden demons mentioned in the title.
The hidden demons.
Yes, they act as a cultural operating system that has been running in the background for centuries.
Which brings us right back to that metaphor of the computer virus we talked about at the beginning.
It does. And Sui Feng's final warning is something we want you, the listener, to really absorb.
Yeah.
The author claims that this culture, these hidden ideas, seep into the very blood, the cells, the thoughts, and the consciousness of every person born into it. Because it is everywhere. It subtly and quietly turns people into captives, into accomplices, and into slaves of these hidden demons without them ever noticing it happening.
It's an unconscious programming.
Exactly. You think you're making your own choices, but you're really just running the code.
It is a heavy, heavy warning to sit with. And while the author is speaking specifically about Chinese history and culture, the underlying mechanism is something we can all recognize in our own lives,
Oh, for sure. It's universal.
It really challenges you to think about the everyday idioms, the corporate slogans, and the foundational ideals in your own culture or even just in your own workplace.
Right. The things we take for granted.
Exactly. Are the words you use every single day subtly programming your values in ways you haven't realized?
It forces us to ask the uncomfortable questions. What are the hidden demons in our own operating systems? What are we blindly accepting as virtue?
Exactly. Which leaves us with one final lingering thought to explore on your own after this deep dive is over. If a society's highest ideals, things that sound as beautiful as serving the people or bringing peace to the world, can actually be built on a foundation of personal power disguised as the public good, how do we distinguish between true virtue and a well-packaged demon in our own modern institutions?
Yes, the real challenge.
It really is. Are the systems we trust today actually infected with the very same ancient malware?
It's a question that demands our constant vigilance. Every time we hear a noble promise, we have to look at the source code.
We really do. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the code.